So, you want to buy a football club. Most people think owning a professional team is simple. You buy a stadium, hire some world-class players, print some jerseys, and watch the cash roll in while you sip champagne in the VIP box. You imagine yourself holding trophy cups, being heralded as a local hero, and watching your net worth skyrocket. But in reality, it is a delicate list of things that all have to stay perfectly true at once just to prevent you from going completely bankrupt. To the average business mogul, a football club looks like the ultimate trophy asset. It's a culturally dominant, globally recognized brand that captures the hearts of millions of passionate customers every single week. But once you lift the hood of this glamorous machine, you'll find a financial black hole. You will realize that you are entering a business where the normal rules of economics have been suspended, where your employees hold all the leverage, and where a single bad afternoon on the pitch can wipe out 50% of your asset value overnight. Today, we are going to look under the microscope of the beautiful game. We'll dissect how football clubs actually make money, explain the dark accounting magic of player amortization, expose the predatory financial takeovers of Wall Street, and compare the high-stakes gamble of European leagues with the protected American cartel. On paper, a top-tier football club is a cash-generating monster. The entire business model is built upon three massive revenue pillars. First, you have match day revenue. Every fortnight, tens of thousands of fanatical supporters flood your stadium. They don't just buy tickets, they buy premium hospitality, expensive stadium food, and official merchandise. In the English Premier League, the average fan spends between £10 and £15 inside the stadium on match day, on top of their ticket price. For a club like Liverpool or Arsenal, playing over 20 home games a season, match day revenue easily surpasses £100 million annually, especially after lucrative stadium expansions. Second is broadcasting revenue. This is the real engine of the sport's modern financial boom. Television networks are willing to pay astronomical sums to broadcast live football because it is one of the few entertainment products that audiences refuse to watch on delay. The English Premier League's global broadcasting rights fetch more than £10 billion over a 3-year cycle. Even the team that finishes dead last in the Premier League walks away with a guaranteed £100 million to £120 million in TV distributions, more than the champions of Spain, Italy, or Germany receive. Finally, there is commercial revenue. This is where your marketing department turns your club's global fame into raw advertising dollars. You sell the rights to put a corporate logo on the front of your shirt, on your sleeve, and even on your training gear. You sign massive multi-year partnerships with sportswear giants like Nike or Adidas. And then you sell hyper-specific sponsorships, naming companies as your official logistics partner, your official tire partner, or your official timing partner. For elite clubs, commercial deals alone bring in over £300 million a year. So if you are bringing in £600 million or even £800 million in total revenue every year, you should be laughing all the way to the bank, right? Wrong, because you have to pay the players. In a standard business, employee payroll accounts for roughly 20 to 30% of operating expenses. In European football, however, the wage-to-revenue ratio is an absolute horror show. Because there is no salary cap in European football, clubs are forced into a constant, highly destructive arms race to sign the best talent. If you want to win trophies, you must pay market rates. And the market rate for a world-class midfielder is now £350,000 a week. For many Premier League clubs, player wages consume anywhere from 70% to upwards of 90% of their entire revenue. Once you pay your squad, pay your manager, pay the scouting network, and pay the astronomical fees demanded by football agents, your massive revenue is completely gone. In the words of industry insiders, a Premier League club is a business that reliably loses money on the football and only makes money in every way that isn't the football. You aren't actually running a business. You are merely a highly stressed middleman, taking money from TV networks and transferring it directly into the bank accounts of 23-year-old athletes and their agents. If most clubs spend more than they make, how do they avoid going bankrupt? And how do they satisfy the strict financial regulators? Both UEFA, through its financial sustainability regulations, and the Premier League, through its profitability and sustainability rules, PSR, monitor club finances closely. Under PSR, a club is generally only allowed to lose a maximum of £105 million over a rolling 3-year window before they face severe punishments, including point deductions that can ruin a season. To stay compliant while spending hundreds of millions on transfers, clubs rely on a legal accounting loophole known as amortization. In professional football, players are not treated as traditional employees on the balance sheet. They are classified as intangible assets. This means that when you buy a player, you do not record the entire transfer fee as a one-time expense. Instead, you spread that cost evenly over the length of the player's contract. Let's say you buy a world-class striker for £100 million and sign him to a 5-year contract. To the outside world, you just spent £100 million, but on your official financial books, you only record a non-cash expense of £20 million per year for the next 5 years. When Todd Boehly and his consortium bought Chelsea FC, they took this loophole to its absolute limit. They signed young players to unprecedented 8- and 9-year contracts. By doing this, a £90 million signing was amortized down to just £10 million a year on the books, allowing Chelsea to spend over £1 billion in a short window, while technically remaining compliant with financial fair play rules. The regulators quickly realized how absurd this was. Both UEFA and the Premier League closed the loophole, capping the amortization period of any transfer fee to a maximum of 5 years, regardless of how long the contract actually is. But what happens when you have spent too much cash, your amortization is piling up, and you are still in danger of breaching the rules? You use the most cynical trick in modern football: selling your own homegrown academy players. Because homegrown players graduated from your own youth academy, they cost you nothing in transfer fees. Therefore, their book value on your balance sheet is exactly zero. If you sell a player you previously bought for £100 million, the accounting profit is only calculated by subtracting their remaining amortized book value from the sale price. If their remaining book value is £40 million and you sell them for £50 million, you only record a £10 million profit. But if you sell a homegrown academy kid for £40 million, you get to write down £40 million of pure, instantaneous profit on your financial reports. This is why modern clubs are increasingly willing to sell their most loyal, local young stars. Players like Conor Gallagher at Chelsea. It's not a sporting decision. It is a desperate accounting maneuver to balance the books and avoid being docked points by a financial regulator. If owning a football club is an operational nightmare that bleeds cash, why are American billionaires and Wall Street private equity firms buying up European clubs at record prices? To find the answer, we have to examine the most controversial corporate takeover in sports history: the 2005 purchase of Manchester United by the American Glazer family. Before 2005, Manchester United was a financial fortress. The club was incredibly successful on the pitch, highly profitable off it, and carried absolutely zero debt. But Malcolm Glazer saw an opportunity to pull off a highly predatory financial maneuver known as a leveraged buyout, LBO. In a typical business acquisition, you buy a company using your own cash or loans secured against your personal wealth. In a leveraged buyout, however, you borrow the vast majority of the purchase price from banks and hedge funds, and then you secure those loans using the assets of the company you are buying as collateral. The Glazers bought Manchester United for £790 million, but they only contributed roughly £270 million of their own money. The remaining £540 million was borrowed from Wall Street hedge funds. Once the deal was completed, the Glazers did something that left Manchester United supporters in absolute shock. They transferred that entire £540 million debt directly onto the balance sheet of Manchester United. Overnight, a debt-free club was saddled with £600 million in debt. The annual interest payments on these loans hovered around £62 million. Think about the sheer audacity of this model. The fans, by purchasing match tickets, buying club shirts, and subscribing to sports channels, were directly paying the interest on the loans that the Glazers took out to buy the club in the first place. For the next 20 years, the Glazers treated Manchester United like a personal ATM. Not only did the club have to pay down the interest on the debt, but the Glazers also began paying themselves millions of pounds in annual dividends. By 2026, the Glazers' leveraged buyout had drained over £1 billion out of Manchester United in interest, debt repayments, and dividends. While the club's iconic stadium, Old Trafford, literally began to rot and its roof leaked rainwater onto the spectators below, the Glazers remained incredibly wealthy. And when they finally agreed to sell a 26% minority stake to British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe in 2024, that stake alone cost him £1.3 billion, valuing the entire club at over $6 billion. This is the ultimate secret of elite football economics. Even if your club loses money operationally every single year, the asset itself, the brand, the stadium, the global fan base of over 1 billion people, appreciates in value like prime real estate. You are not buying a traditional business. You are buying a scarce, irreplaceable cultural asset. But if you are a prospective owner, you must realize that the European football market is a high-stakes, unregulated jungle. And its most terrifying feature is a mechanism called promotion and relegation. In Europe, the sports model is open. If your team plays poorly and finishes in the bottom 3 of the league, you are relegated to the division below. The financial consequences of relegation are catastrophic. On average, a relegated club experiences an immediate 25% to 50% drop in revenue. Your broadcasting income evaporates, sponsors walk away, and ticket sales plummet. But here is the catch: your liabilities do not fall. You still have to pay the guaranteed multi-million-dollar wages of the players you signed during your glory days. If you try to spend your way out of the crisis, you will likely breach financial rules, face point deductions, slide further down the table, and face total bankruptcy. In Europe, you are not just buying a club, you are buying a volatile slot in a television queue, which can be taken away from you at any time by a bad refereeing decision or a player's injury. Now let's look at the United States and Major League Soccer. The American sports model is a closed franchise cartel. In MLS, there is no promotion and there is no relegation. If your franchise finishes dead last, you aren't punished. In fact, you are rewarded with the first pick in the league's player draft to help you get better. MLS operates as a single entity structure. When you buy an MLS team, you are actually buying a share in the league itself, which grants you the exclusive right to operate a team in a specific market. You hold a geographic monopoly. Because of this safety, American soccer franchises command valuations that completely defy normal business logic. Look at this discrepancy. LAFC, an MLS franchise founded recently, is valued at $1.25 billion, while generating just $150 million in revenue. That is an astronomical valuation multiple of 8.3 times. Meanwhile, Real Madrid, the most famous, prestigious, and successful sports institution on the planet, with a massive global revenue of $1.13 billion, is valued at $6.53 billion. That represents a multiple of just 5.8 times. Why is a young team in Los Angeles valued at a higher multiple than the kings of Europe? Because investors are paying for safety. In the U.S., the MLS salary cap prevents catastrophic financial overspending, and the lack of relegation guarantees predictable, reliable cash flows year after year. European clubs are valued on their massive current cash flows, which they must constantly risk in the coliseum of open competition. MLS franchises are valued on the expectation of future monopoly growth and the absolute certainty that they can never lose their spot at the top table. So, let's summarize the economics of owning a football club. If your goal is to grow your personal fortune, do not buy a football club. Take your $1 billion, put it in a boring index fund, go home, and sleep soundly knowing you are getting richer every day. But billionaires don't buy football clubs to make money. They buy them for status amplification and wealth preservation. They buy them because owning a top-tier team puts you in the same room as kings, prime ministers, presidents, and the most influential power brokers on earth. They buy them because it is a cultural asset that makes your name immortal. When you own a football club, you are holding a century of a city's passion, belief, and identity in your hands. You do not truly own it. You are merely trusted with it temporarily. And for the global elite, that feeling of standing in the director's box while 80,000 people sing your team's song, that is worth more than any dividend check a bank could ever write. If you enjoyed this deep dive, do us a favor and subscribe. Before you go, I want to hear from you in the comments. If you had a spare $1 billion, which football club would you buy and why? And do you think the European promotion relegation system is superior, or should they adopt the American closed model? Let me know down below, and we'll see you in the next video.